There are seasons in life when time itself feels like a burden laid upon the soul, when days stretch long and nights grow heavy with questions that have no immediate answers. In such seasons, waiting is not merely the passing of hours, but the quiet wrestling of the heart with hope. You prayed and you believed, and yet the door did not open when you expected. You asked and you trusted, and still the silence lingered. It is here, in this sacred tension, that many lose heart, mistaking delay for denial and silence for absence. But the truth, often hidden from our anxious eyes, is that God works most deeply where He speaks least loudly. Waiting has a way of revealing what we truly believe about God. If we thought Him only swift, we grow impatient. If we thought Him only kind, we grow confused. Yet if we know Him to be wise, then even the longest wait begins to make sense, not because it is easy, but because it is purposeful. The wait is not an empty corridor where nothing happens. It is a workshop where unseen hands are shaping both the gift and the receiver. For what you prayed for was never meant to arrive unchanged, and neither were you meant to receive it unchanged. Many imagine that faith is strongest in the moment of miracle, when the answer finally appears in plain sight. But faith is far more robust in the waiting room, where there is nothing to lean on except the character of God. It is easy to praise when the door opens. It is harder to trust when it remains closed. And yet, it is in that closed door that your faith has been stretched, refined, and made capable of bearing the weight of the blessing to come. A soul untested may desire much, but it can rarely carry much. What you call delay, God often calls preparation. What you feel as loss of time, He sees as the slow alignment of many things you cannot yet see. Consider how often you have asked for an outcome without realizing the cost of receiving it too soon. A blessing given before its time can become a burden rather than a joy. So God, in His mercy, waits while you wait, not withholding out of cruelty, but guarding out of love. He knows that the thing you prayed for will touch more than just your hands. It will touch your heart, your habits, your humility, and your dependence on Him. The waiting has not been wasted. Every tear shed in secret, every prayer whispered in the dark, every moment you chose hope over despair has been quietly recorded, not as evidence of weakness, but as proof of endurance. And endurance, once completed, produces a testimony that cannot be argued away. A testimony is not merely a story of receiving, it is a story of surviving the season before receiving. It is the echo of faith that stood firm when circumstances offered no encouragement. You may not have noticed it at first, but the wait has already begun to change you. You pray differently now, with less demand and more surrender. You listen more closely, no longer rushing God with your timetable. You value His presence more than His gifts, because the absence of immediate answers has taught you that He Himself is the greatest answer. This is no small transformation. It is the quiet miracle that precedes the visible one. There were moments when you nearly gave up, when disappointment spoke louder than promise, when logic argued against hope. Yet here you are, still standing, still believing, still waiting with a heart that has not entirely closed. That alone is evidence that God has been sustaining you, for no one endures such seasons by sheer strength of will. Grace has been at work, even when you did not recognize its presence. Grace carried you through days when faith felt thin and nights when prayer felt hollow. What is unfolding now did not begin today. It began the moment you prayed with sincerity, the moment your desire met God's wisdom. From that point onward, events began to move, some slowly, some imperceptibly, all in careful coordination. People were being positioned, circumstances adjusted, obstacles removed or delayed for reasons you could not yet understand. God's answers often arrive quietly at first, disguised as small shifts rather than dramatic changes. Only later do we look back and see how perfectly timed each step truly was. The testimony God is forming in your life will not merely say that you received what you asked for. It will declare that God was faithful when nothing made sense, that He was near when He seemed distant, that He was working when you thought nothing was happening. Such a testimony has weight because it has been forged in patience rather than haste. It carries authority because it has passed through doubt and emerged intact. There is a particular humility that grows in those who have waited long. They do not boast easily, nor do they judge quickly. They understand that outcomes are not always the result of effort alone, and that grace plays a far greater role than most are willing to admit. This humility is not weakness, it is clarity. It allows you to receive the blessing without being consumed by it, to hold it with gratitude rather than entitlement. You once thought that the waiting was the problem, that if only the answer would come, peace would follow. Now you begin to see that peace was being taught to you in the waiting itself. You learned to rest without resolution, to trust without proof, to love God without guarantees. These lessons are not erased. When the answer arrives, they become the foundation upon which the blessing can safely stand, as what you prayed for begins to unfold. LD, it may not arrive in the exact form you imagined. God is rarely limited by our expectations. His answers often exceed our requests, though not always in the ways we first recognize. What matters is not the shape of the answer, but the faithfulness behind it. And that faithfulness has been present every step of the way, even when your vision was clouded by frustration. Do not underestimate the power of your story. Others will listen not because you succeeded, but because you endured. They will hear in your voice the authenticity of someone who knows what it is to wait and still believe. Your testimony will give permission to others to trust God in their own seasons of delay. It will stand as quiet evidence that waiting with God is never the same as waiting alone. Even now, as things begin to shift, you may feel a mixture of relief and fear. Relief that the wait is ending, fear that hope might still be disappointed. Such feelings are natural for those who have waited long. But remember this, the same God who sustained you in the waiting will sustain you in the receiving. He does not abandon his work halfway. He completes what he begins with care and intention. There is a reverence that comes from seeing God's timing unfold at last. It silences many of our former complaints and replaces them with awe. You begin to see that, had the answer come earlier, you would not have recognized its value, nor appreciated its depth. Now, having waited, you receive with open hands and a grateful heart, aware of the cost and the grace involved. The unfolding of your prayer is not an end, but a continuation. It marks not the conclusion of God's work in you, but the next chapter of it. For every answered prayer reveals new responsibilities, new opportunities to trust, new ways to reflect God's faithfulness. The testimony grows as the journey continues, enriched by each new step of obedience. As you stand on the threshold of what you once only imagined, take a moment to honor the waiting season. Do not rush past it as though it were merely an obstacle to overcome. It was a sacred classroom, a place where your faith was strengthened, your character refined, and your understanding deepened. Without it, the blessing would not mean what it now means. You may still carry scars from the waiting, memories of nights when hope felt fragile, and mornings when courage had to be rebuilt from nothing. These scars are not signs of failure, they are marks of survival. They remind you that you did not arrive here by chance, nor by your own strength alone, but by grace that met you at every low point and lifted you one step at a time. And so, as what you prayed for continues to unfold, remain attentive. God often speaks most clearly in transition, when the old season is fading and the new one is still forming. Listen with the same humility you learned in the waiting. Walk forward with the same trust that carried you through uncertainty. For the story God is telling through your life is not yet finished, and the testimony He is shaping will continue to deepen as you move ahead, learning again and again that His timing, though often mysterious, is never without meaning, and that the weight you once feared has become the very ground on which your faith now stands, steady and resilient, ready for what comes next, even as the unfolding continues in ways you are only beginning to see. And the quiet assurance settles in your heart that the God who taught you to wait is now inviting you to walk forward step by step, with the same trust that sustained you when all you could do was hope. Hope in the unseen, because the unseen was shaping you more profoundly than anything visible ever could. You are discovering now that trust is not merely believing God can act, but believing He knows when to act, and that His sense of time is not careless but deliberate, not slow but precise. There is a great difference between delay born of neglect and delay born of love, and only wisdom can tell them apart. You have been granted that wisdom not by explanation, but by experience. When you look back, you may realize that some of the things you once begged God to remove were, in fact, the very instruments He used to steady you. Certain disappointments stripped away illusions you were never meant to carry. Certain closed doors prevented you from stepping into spaces that would have diminished you rather than strengthened you. At the time, such truths felt cruel, almost insulting to hope, yet now they appear as quiet mercies. The weight protected you from receiving less than what your calling required. It is strange how quickly we forget our former prayers once the answers begin to take shape. We remember the request, but not always the desperation with which it was offered. Yet God remembers both. He remembers the trembling faith that dared to ask, and He honors it not by rushing, but by responding in a way that secures the future, rather than merely relieving the present. What is unfolding now carries endurance within it. Because endurance was planted in you first, you may notice that you are less impressed by sudden success than you once were. Quick victories no longer dazzle you as they did before, because you have seen how easily they fade when not rooted in character. You have learned that anything worth keeping must first be waited for, tested by time, and weighed by patience. This understanding does not make you bitter. It makes you careful, thoughtful, and quietly confident. There is also a tenderness that has grown in you, a sensitivity to others who are still waiting. You recognize their silent battles, their forced smiles, their brave words spoken through clenched teeth. You do not offer them easy answers, because you know how shallow such comfort can feel. Instead, you offer presence, understanding, and the unspoken assurance that waiting does not mean forgotten. In this way, your testimony is already alive, even before the full answer has arrived. God often prepares us to become answers to prayers we never prayed for ourselves. While you were waiting for your own breakthrough, compassion was being formed in you, equipping you to walk beside others when their faith grows tired. This is part of the unfolding you may not have anticipated. Your story was never meant to end with you alone. It was meant to spill outward, touching lives you may never fully see, yet influencing them nonetheless. As the shape of your answered prayer becomes clearer, you may find that joy arrives more quietly than you expected. There is no thunder, no dramatic announcement, only a deep settling of the heart, as though something long out of place has finally aligned. This quiet joy is not fragile, it is steady. It does not demand attention, it endures without it. Such joy is born not of surprise, but of recognition. You recognize it because you have lived long enough without it to know its worth. You may also find yourself grieving the end of the waiting season, even as you welcome what comes next. This may seem confusing, but it is natural. The waiting shaped you, accompanied you, and in its own difficult way, became familiar. Letting it go feels like stepping away from a version of yourself that learned to survive with very little. Yet do not fear this transition. The strength you gained there does not disappear, it travels with you. What you receive now will demand stewardship. Blessings are not merely gifts to be enjoyed, but trusts to be managed wisely. God does not answer prayers carelessly, and neither should we receive answers casually. The waiting taught you reverence, and that reverence will guide you as you step forward. You know now that what comes from God must be handled with humility, gratitude, and obedience, lest it lose its purpose. There will still be moments of uncertainty ahead. The unfolding of a prayer does not eliminate all questions, it simply changes their nature. Where you once asked when, you may now ask how. Where you once asked if, you may now ask what next. These questions are not signs of doubt, but invitations to deeper trust. Faith does not end when the answer arrives, it evolves. You will notice that your prayers themselves have changed. They are less crowded with demands and more spacious with listening. You have learned that silence before God is not emptiness, but availability. In that silence, your heart becomes receptive, not only to instruction, but to reassurance. God does not always explain his ways, but he is faithful to steady those who walk them. The testimony forming in your life will not be dramatic in the way stories are often told. It will not rely on exaggeration or spectacle. Its power will come from its quiet consistency, from the undeniable truth that you waited, you trusted, and you were not abandoned. Such testimonies do not shout. They resonate. They linger in the minds of those who hear them because they speak to something deeply and deeply hopeful. As you continue forward, guard against the temptation to measure God's faithfulness solely by visible outcomes. The waiting taught you that his faithfulness is often most evident in unseen sustenance. Do not lose that perspective now. What you prayed for is unfolding, yes, but God himself remains the constant, the source, the center. Keep your gaze there, and the blessing will find its proper place. There may be moments when you wonder why the journey had to be so long, why the path could not have been more direct. Such questions are understandable, but they rarely yield satisfying answers. What does yield peace is recognizing that the length of the journey shaped the depth of the arrival. Shorter roads rarely teach us how to walk well. Longer ones, though painful, teach us endurance, discernment, and dependence. You have become someone who can wait without losing yourself, who can hope without denying reality, who can trust without needing constant reassurance. These are not small achievements, they are signs of maturity that cannot be rushed. The world often celebrates speed, but heaven seems to celebrate faithfulness over time. You have participated in that quiet celebration, even when you did not know it. As the days move forward and the answer continues to take form, stay attentive to the small confirmations along the way. God often affirms his work gently, through moments of peace, through timely words, through an unexpected sense of rightness. These are not coincidences, they are reminders that you are still being guided. The same hand that held you steady in waiting is now leading you into fulfillment. Do not be surprised if gratitude feels overwhelming at times, almost too heavy to carry. Gratitude of this kind is born from knowing how easily things could have gone differently, how close you came to giving up, how fragile hope once felt. Let that gratitude soften you, not burden you. Let it become a posture rather than a momentary feeling. You may also encounter those who do not understand your journey, who see only the result and not the road. Resist the urge to explain yourself fully. Some truths can only be understood by those who have waited in similar silence. Your peace does not require universal understanding. It requires only your continued trust in the one who has brought you this far. What unfolds from here will likely challenge you in new ways. Growth always does. But you are no longer unprepared. The waiting trained you to remain steady when answers are slow and outcomes uncertain. That same steadiness will serve you now, anchoring you when new responsibilities arise and new decisions must be made. The story God is telling through your life is layered, rich with meaning that reveals itself slowly. Each chapter makes sense not on its own but in relation to the whole. The waiting chapter, though painful, gave weight and credibility to everything that follows. Without it, the testimony would sound hollow. With it, the testimony carries truth that cannot be dismissed. As you move forward, keep remembering who you were in the waiting. Remember the prayers you whispered when no one else knew what you were facing. Remember the strength you did not think you had. This memory will keep you humble and grounded, reminding you that everything you have received is rooted in grace rather than achievement. And even now, as you walk into what once felt impossibly distant, the invitation remains the same as it was in the waiting, to trust. Trust does not end when the door opens, it simply steps into a larger room. The God who met you in the silence will meet you in the unfolding, guiding you not only toward what you asked for, but toward who you are becoming as the journey continues, layer by layer, moment by moment, revealing meanings you could not have understood at the beginning, and drawing you forward with a quiet assurance that what has begun is still in motion, still being shaped, still unfolding in ways that call for the same steady faith that carried you through the long, unseen hours when all you could do was wait and believe. Believe even when belief felt like an act of resistance against despair. That resistance, quiet and often unnoticed, has become one of the strongest forces shaping your life. It trained you to stand without applause, to choose faith without immediate reward, to remain honest with God when polite prayers would not do. Such honesty is rare, and D receives it not as disrespect, but as intimacy. You did not pretend strength, you offered truth, and truth opened the way for grace to work deeply. There were days when you measured progress, not by steps forward, but by the simple fact that you did not turn back. Remaining was itself an achievement. Staying present, staying prayerful, staying open when disappointment tempted you to close your heart was a quiet form of courage. You learned that endurance is not loud. It often looks like showing up again with a bruised hope and a tired spirit, trusting that faithfulness still matters even when outcomes remain unclear. You may now recognize that some of your strongest prayers were not spoken aloud. They were carried in sighs, in tears that formed without words, in moments when silence became the only honest language. Those prayers were not ignored. They reached God precisely because they were unpolished, stripped of performance, offered without strategy. In that vulnerability, your waiting became worship, even when it did not feel holy. As what you asked for unfolds further, you may notice a growing clarity about what truly matters to you. The waiting acted as a kind of filter, separating what was essential from what was merely urgent. Desires once fueled by comparison or fear lost their hold on you. In their place grew a steadier longing for what aligns with truth, purpose, and peace. This alignment did not come suddenly. It emerged slowly, shaped by time and trust working. Together, there is a subtle strength in you now, one that does not seek attention. It does not rush to prove itself or demand recognition. It knows what it has endured, and that knowledge is enough. You carry a calm confidence, not because you control outcomes, but because you trust the one who does. This confidence allows you to move forward without arrogance and without anxiety, a rare balance learned only through prolonged dependence. You may find yourself more patient with processes now, less irritated by gradual progress. Waiting taught you that growth often happens beneath the surface, invisible until suddenly undeniable. This understanding will serve you well in every area of life, reminding you that slow does not mean stagnant, and unseen does not mean inactive. God's work often advances quietly, respecting the integrity of time rather than forcing premature results. As doors open and opportunities emerge, discernment becomes essential. Not every open door is an invitation, and not every opportunity aligns with the purpose shaped within you. The waiting sharpened your ability to listen inwardly, to sense when something carries peace and when it carries pressure. Trust that sensitivity. It is one of the fruits of the season you survived. You may encounter moments when old fears attempt to resurface, whispering that what is unfolding could still be taken away. Such fears are understandable after long waiting, but they no longer define you. You are learning to receive, without bracing for loss, to enjoy without guarding yourself against disappointment. This is not naivety, it is healing. It is the slow release of defenses built during uncertainty. God does not bring you through waiting only to abandon you in fulfillment. The same faithfulness that sustained you then surrounds you now. If anything, you are more aware of it, more attuned to its presence. You recognize grace not only in rescue, but in guidance, not only in answers, but in companionship. This awareness transforms ordinary moments into reminders that you are not walking alone. There is also a growing freedom in you, a freedom from the need to control every outcome. Waiting taught you that control is often an illusion, and that surrender, though frightening at first, creates space for something better to emerge. This freedom allows you to engage fully with life without gripping it too tightly, trusting that what is meant to stay will remain, and what is meant to change will do so with purpose. You may notice that gratitude now flows more naturally, not only when things go well, but even when challenges arise. Gratitude born from waiting is not dependent on circumstances, it is rooted in remembrance. You remember what it was like to have nothing but hope, and that memory shapes your response to both joy and difficulty. Gratitude becomes less of a reaction and more of a way of seeing. As the unfolding continues, you may be surprised by how much responsibility accompanies answers. Arid prayer. What you once desired as relief now invites participation. God often answers prayers by inviting us into partnership, asking us to steward wisely what we once merely hoped to receive. This partnership can feel daunting, but it is also deeply affirming. It signals trust, a confidence in who you have become. You may reflect on how the waiting altered your understanding of success. Success no longer appears as a single moment or achievement, but as faithfulness over time. You recognize now that reaching a goal is less important than becoming someone capable of sustaining what that goal requires. This perspective guards you against disappointment and protects you from defining your worth by outcomes alone. There is a gentleness in how you speak to yourself now, a patience that was not always there. Waiting forced you to confront your limitations, to accept that you could not rush God or manipulate circumstances. In that acceptance, self-compassion grew. You learned to extend grace to yourself, to acknowledge effort even when results were delayed. This inner kindness is one of the quieter victories of your journey. As you move forward, remember that not all answers arrive fully formed. Some unfold gradually, revealing new layers over time. Resist the urge to finalize the story too quickly. Allow space for growth, for surprise, for further refinement. God's answers often exceed our expectations precisely because they continue to develop beyond our initial imaginatio. You may find yourself returning often to the memory of certain moments during the waiting, moments that felt insignificant at the time, but now glow with meaning, a conversation, a decision not to quit, a prayer offered despite exhaustion. These moments were seeds, planted quietly, now bearing fruit. Their significance becomes clear only in retrospect, reminding you that faithfulness is rarely wasted. There will be seasons ahead that require waiting again, though perhaps not in the same way. This does not negate what you have learned, it confirms it. Life moves in rhythms, not straight lines. Each season builds upon the last, drawing from the strength and wisdom previously formed. You will recognize future waiting not as punishment, but as part of an ongoing relationship with a God who shapes through time. You may also sense a deeper reverence for mystery, an acceptance that not everything must be understood to be trusted. Waiting dismantled the illusion that clarity is a prerequisite for obedience. You learned to move forward with limited information, guided by faith rather than certainty. This ability will continue to serve you, allowing you to navigate complexity without becoming paralyzed by it. As what you prayed for continues to take shape, remain attentive to your inner life. External changes are meaningful, but internal alignment is essential. Guard the humility, patience, and attentiveness cultivated during the waiting. These qualities are not temporary tools. They are permanent companions, meant to guide you long after this particular prayer has been answered. You may feel moments of quiet amazement when you realize how far you have come, not just in circumstances, but in spirit. The person who once struggled to trust now walks with a steadier heart. The one who feared delay now understands its purpose. This transformation did not happen overnight, nor did it announce itself. It grew slowly, invisibly, like roots deepening underground before any growth appeared above the surface. And even now, as you stand in this unfolding space between what was and what will be, there is still an invitation to listen. God continues to speak, not always through dramatic signs, but through steady guidance, through the alignment of peace and conviction. Learning to recognize that voice was one of the great gifts of the waiting, and it remains available to you now. You may encounter moments when you are tempted to rush the next phase, eager to make up for lost time. Resist that impulse. Nothing has truly been lost. The waiting did not steal years from you, it invested them. Move forward with intention rather than urgency, trusting that the same wisdom that guided the timing of the answer will guide the pace of what follows. The unfolding you are experiencing is not merely about receiving what you once desired, it is about continuing to become someone shaped by trust. This becoming does not end with fulfillment, it deepens through it. Each step forward offers new opportunities to practice faith, to choose obedience, to rely on grace rather than certainty. And so the story continues, not as a sudden resolution, but as a living narrative still in motion. The weight has given way to movement, but the rhythm of trust remains the same. You walk now with a heart that knows both longing and fulfillment, absence and presence, silence and assurance. This knowledge does not make you immune to struggle, but it anchors you within it. As you move through what is unfolding, keep holding space for wonder. Wonder keeps the heart open, receptive, alive to possibility. It prevents fulfillment from becoming entitlement and gratitude from fading into habit. Wonder reminds you that every step forward is still, at its core, an act of grace. And even now, as the days continue and the answer continues to reveal itself in forms both expected and surprising, there is more being shaped, more being aligned, more being prepared within you and around you as the journey presses on, unhurried yet intentional, drawing you further into trust, deeper into understanding, and onward into a story that is still being written, still breathing, still unfolding in ways that invite you to remain attentive, faithful, and open, as each moment leads quietly into the next. As we stand at the threshold of what was once only a prayer in our hearts, we can look back and see that the waiting was never wasted, the silence never empty, and the delay never without purpose. God has been at work all along, shaping, preparing, and refining both the gift and the one receiving it. What you prayed for is finally unfolding, not just as an answer, but as a testimony of faith, endurance, and trust. Let this journey remind you that God's timing is perfect, His wisdom beyond measure, and His love steadfast. The wait has made the blessing richer, the joy deeper, and your faith stronger. Today, as your prayer takes form before your eyes, embrace it with gratitude, humility, and awe, knowing that the God who held you in the waiting is the very same God who delights in your fulfillment, and that your testimony will inspire not only your life, but the lives of all who hear it.